أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Lesson number 219, Surah Al-Ahzab. We'll begin from ayah number 18. قَدْ يَعْلَمُ اللَّهُ الْمُعَوِّقِينَ مِنْكُمْ. Allah already knows about the hinderers among you, those who hinder others. وَالْقَائِلِينَ لِإِخْوَانِهِمْ, and those who say to their brothers, هَلُمَّ إِلَيْنَا, come to us, join us. وَلَا يَأْتُونَ الْبَأْسَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا, and they do not go to battle except for a few. As you know that these ayats, they are about the battle of Khandaq, and in particular these verses are talking about the behavior of the hypocrites throughout this battle, throughout the siege that was laid on Medina by the mushrikeen. And where the believers, they were strong, they were courageous, they were putting a lot of effort, they were sacrificing in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the other hand, there was a group of those people who were cowards themselves, and they were also discouraging others from going forward. They were also discouraging others from sacrificing in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describe them? Al-Mu'awwiqeen. The munafiqeen, how does He describe them? Al-Mu'awwiqeen. That Allah, He already knows, He knows about who? Those who hinder others. Mu'awwiq is a singular of the word mu'awwiqeen, and it's from the root letters Ayn, Waw, Qaf. Aqa, Ya'uqu, which is to put a barrier between two things. You may have heard of the term aq, that when a family disowns a particular person, like for example, they don't like what their son has done, like for instance, he has married outside of the family, so what do? That's it, we disown you, you have no relationship with us, you don't know us, we don't know you, nothing whatsoever. So a barrier has been put between him and the rest of the family. So aqa ya'uqu, from this is what? To put a barrier between two things. And mu'awwiq, this is ism fa'il. So who is mu'awwiq? Mu'awwiq is one who hinders other people, one who stops other people from doing what they should be doing, from achieving their goals, from working towards their goal, from working towards their purpose. When you're doing something, there are some people who cooperate with you, that they encourage you. And if you're falling behind, what do? They give you a push. But on the other hand, there are those who become a barrier between you and your work. They hinder you. They stop you. They don't let you do what you're supposed to do. And how do they do it? Sometimes very actively. That no, you're not going to do this. And sometimes they discourage you by their words. So this is why قَدْ يَعْلَمُ اللَّهُ الْمُعَوِّقِينَ, those who stop the believers, who hinder them from supporting the Prophet ﷺ. Now how did they hinder the Muslims from supporting the Prophet ﷺ? In the previous ayat, what did we learn? That they would say, Ya ahla Yathrib, O people of Yathrib, let's go back. Instead of saying, O believers, what did they say? O people of Yathrib, to completely exclude the Prophet ﷺ and the Muhajirin. So by saying these words, what were they doing? They were hindering the Muslims, stopping them, discouraging them from supporting the Prophet ﷺ, from going out with the Prophet ﷺ for the purpose of battle. And they were also doing this by spreading fasad, by spreading fear. So Allah says, قَدْ يَعْلَمُ اللَّهُ الْمُعَوِّقِينَ مِنْكُمْ. Allah knows about those people who hinder others. Now we have to see that when other people are working for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what role are we playing? Are we of those people who support them? Like we learn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those believers who are strong. الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ صَفًّا كَأَنَّهُمْ بُنْيَانٌ مَرْصُوصٌ, as if they are a very strong wall. That our function as believers is what? That we should be a source of strength and support for one another. This is our purpose. This is our role. That if one is falling behind, we encourage them, we boost them with our words, with words of encouragement, with help, with cooperation. But the hypocrite, or the person who is weak in his faith, what does he do? He discourages others. He says, no, don't go out. This is too difficult. How is it possible for you? Impossible. You have too many things to do. You're exhausted. You're tired. This is not mandatory on you. Don't do it. And the other way is, you can do it, try. We're doing it, you can do it too. So the mu'awwiqeen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He knows very well about them. They're not hidden from Allah. Those who don't do anything themselves, and they also discourage others from doing their work. And sometimes what happens, that we're doing our work, and a friend calls, and you tell them, I have a test tomorrow, I have to study. But please listen to me. Please talk to me. You're doing your work, you're doing your assignment, and there comes a friend, sits next to you, perhaps she's also doing the course, and she's talking and talking and talking, saying, let's go here, let's go there. This is also a way of stopping other people from doing their work. You understand? So, a believer does not do anything like this. Which is why we see that even within spouses, between a husband and a wife, when they want to spend time with one another, but it's time for the man to go to the masjid, what should the wife do? You're out all day and now you're going again. Then she would be playing the role of who? Mu'awwiq. This does not suit a believing woman. What should she do? Encourage him. And this means that she has to sacrifice and he has to sacrifice. Isn't it so? So you want to talk to a friend. You're itching to speak to her, tell her all that you've been going through, all that you've been thinking, but you realize that it's the month of Ramadan. Both of us should be reading our du'as, reciting the Quran. So we should not become mu'awwiq for other people. قَدْ يَعْلَمُ اللَّهُ الْمُعَوِّقِينَ مِنْكُمْ وَالْقَائِلِينَ. And those who say, plural of قائل. Those who say لِإِخْوَانِهِمْ, to their brothers. Who are their brothers? The people of Medina. The people of Medina, meaning the Ansar, they have been described as إِخْوَانِهِمْ, their brothers. Now what kind of ukhuwa did they have? The ukhuwa of living in the same place. Okay? Belonging to the same country, same land. So, وَالْقَائِلِينَ لِإِخْوَانِهِمْ. They were saying to their brothers. Now brothers over here we can understand as the rest of the believers who lived in Medina. And we can also understand the brothers as the people who were like them. Ukhuwa fi din, and that would refer to other hypocrites. So they were saying to one another, what did they say? Halumma ilayna, come to us. Halumma gives the meaning of amr. It is a singular word, but it can also apply to plural. So halumma, get up, come on. Halumma ilayna, come to us. Meaning leave the messenger and come join us. Let's go back. Let's go back to the city. Because we learned earlier that some munafiqeen, what did they do? They went to the Prophet ﷺ, making false excuses, seeking permission to go back home and not stand at the trenches guarding the city. And what would happen when people would come and ask the Prophet ﷺ for permission? Would he grant it? Many times he would. Which is why we learned that at the Battle of Tabuk, at the expedition of Tabuk, later on the Prophet ﷺ was told that he should not have given permission. But the Prophet ﷺ generally, what would he do? He would grant permission to people. So, these people, they went back and they're telling those who are like them, weak in faith, or their brothers, meaning the believers, what were they telling them? Halumma ilayna, come and join us. Leave the messenger, leave these muhajirin, come, let's go back home. What happens sometimes? That a person who is a coward himself, a person who is a failure himself, what does he want? That other people should also be like him. Why? So that he does not look bad. So that he does not look bad. So they left themselves, and what do they want? That other people should also join them. Other people should also leave and join them. There's a story that I read as a little child about this fox. That once in the jungle, it got caught in something and its tail got cut off. So everybody started making fun of the fox. You don't have a tail, your tail got cut off. And now she's going around convincing everybody, oh, I don't have a tail, and it's so convenient, doesn't bother me. Why don't you get your tail cut off as well? So, because that fox looked bad, what did he do? Try to convince other people to do the same thing. To get their tails cut off as well. Now the munafiqeen, they did the same thing. They didn't go forth themselves. And what did they want? That the rest of the believers should also leave and join them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا يَأْتُونَ الْبَأْسَ. And they do not come to battle. Al-Ba's, might, and over here it refers to battle. They do not come to battle, إِلَّا قَلِيلًا, except a little. Meaning the munafiqeen themselves, they do not come to battle except a little. What does it mean by this, except a little? Meaning their participation in battle in general is very, very little. That the time that they were there, what did they do? Hardly anything. The believers, they were busy digging the trenches. The Prophet ﷺ, along with them, digging the trenches, carrying the dirt from the trenches all the way up. And the munafiqeen, the time that they were there, what did they do? Hardly anything. And then very soon, they asked for permission and they went back home. And they were encouraging other people to do the same as well. وَلَا يَأْتُونَ الْبَأْسَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Now the question is, that why would the hypocrites go for battle even? Did the Prophet ﷺ force them? He never forced people. Why did they go then, in the first place? So that they can get the benefits, that if the believers are victorious, they can also get a share in war booty. Why else? For the purpose of showing off, so that they don't look bad. Just to mark their attendance. Just to tell other people that, see, I came. I was there. I'm also a good person. The thing is that if a person just wants to assure others of his righteousness, of his piety, then his actions will be like this. That he will do only a little bit just to get by. Just to get by. Why? Because his goal is to assure other people, I'm also a good person. Like for example, some people when they study, when they work for a particular test or assignment, why do they do it? Just to pass. Just to get by. But there are others who don't want to just get by. What do? They want to do excellent. Which is why they study. They don't just study right before the test so that if there are any words that are important, they can quickly see them. No, they study because they want to know every word of the Qur'an. And there is a difference in their performance. Complete difference. So we see that the munafiqeen, what would they do? They would just come to, as if mark their attendance, to not look bad, to not be condemned by others, just to appear as good people, as the rest of the Muslims, to blend in. And as soon as they would come, they would do a little bit, and then they would present excuses in order to go back. And when they would go back themselves, what would they do? They would also encourage others to leave the Prophet ﷺ and come back. To stop sacrificing in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now just imagine, it was such a difficult time. Such a difficult situation. It's cold, there's less food, the enemy has surrounded the city, and on top of that, the Prophet ﷺ himself is also putting in so much effort. And here are people presenting excuses and telling other people, leave, let's go back home. How bad is this? What a bad behavior is this? Our role in such situations should be of what? Encouraging one another. That this is something so important. We cannot leave. That if one person is falling behind, we encourage them. Now this was the Battle of Trench, the Battle of Khandaq. Now today, what situation are we in? That we are surrounded by ignorance. If you look at Muslim families, Muslim households, if you look at those people who are apparently religious, if you ask them about one verse of the Qur'an even, perhaps they would not know the meaning of it, the reason behind it. If you ask them about what surahs they read in their salah, minimum, only a few. The meaning, they have no idea. If you think about it, the Muslims, in their families, as a community, what are they suffering from? Ignorance. Ignorance about what? The deen. And what is our obligation if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought us over here? That we must put in our maximum effort to not just get by, but to have a strong understanding of the religion. Because if we don't have it, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the opportunity, then how can we spread this light? How can we spread this knowledge? So, just as the Battle of Khandaq was a desperate situation that every single individual was needed, consider today as a desperate situation as well. That every single person is needed. Think about it. So many children, they never find a Qur'an teacher. Why? Because there aren't Qur'an teachers available. So many children. I'm sure you have come across many parents who are struggling. Do you know anybody who can teach my children? I remember I came across this convert lady. She had become a Muslim several years ago, and she was desperate. Can anyone teach me how to pray? I just follow the people when I go to the masjid, I don't know how to recite the prayer. Can anyone teach me? She said, I'll pay. I'll pick and drop. I just want somebody to come and teach me how to pray salah. And she couldn't find anybody. Anybody. And then alhamdulillah, I told her where to go. But I was just thinking that there's so many people who are desperate. And when it comes to teaching people, we have a list of reasons as to why we cannot do it. And on the other side, if we want to do it, what's the problem that we face? We don't know. We are not confident ourselves. Now what's the solution? Remain in this situation. I don't know, therefore I cannot teach. I don't know, therefore I cannot help you. Should we stay like this? Is this the solution? No. What's the solution? What is it? That we must keep learning. That whatever opportunity Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us, we keep learning, keep mastering our skills, keep revising the knowledge that we have, keep practicing, so that we can spread this knowledge. Little children don't know, adults don't know, men don't know, women don't know, girls don't know, boys don't know. And if they know a little bit, even that is not enough. They need to know more. And we see that learning knowledge is what? It's an obligation upon every Muslim man and every Muslim woman. So just as that, the Battle of Khandaq was a critical situation, today also is what? A critical situation. Therefore, all of you who have been given the opportunity by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to come and study the Qur'an, what should be your behavior towards it? What should be your attitude towards it? Not just to get by, but to become excellent at it. So that after this course, once you've studied, you can actually help someone. You can actually teach someone. Even if it's one person you can help, it's a big deal. Because when the masses are ignorant and you've educated one person, even you've helped him understand, then that also is a big achievement. Ashihatan alaykum, indisposed toward you. This is the attitude of who? Of the munafiqeen. That they are ashihatan alaykum. Ashihah is the plural of shahih. And it's from the root letters Sheen, Ha, Ha. Who is shahih? Fa'il. One who is suffering from shuh. Shahih is one who is suffering from shuh. Now what is shuh? Stinginess. What else? Greed. Basically, shuh includes two things. First of all, hirs. And what is that? Extreme greed. And secondly, bukhl. And what does that mean? Stinginess. So a shahih person is who? Jamu'an and manu'an. Jamu'an, meaning when it's time to take, what does he do? He takes everything. When it's time to receive, he wants everything. He wants it all. And manu'an, what does it mean by that? That when it's time to give, he withholds. He doesn't part from anything. Not even one. So who is shahih? Jamu'an, manu'an. One who is extremely greedy, extremely selfish. Isn't it? That's the person who is described as selfish. Who? Who doesn't give anything and he takes everything. He's only concerned about his benefit. He doesn't care about others. So, ashihatan alaykum. These munafiqeen, they're ashihatan alaykum. Who does you refer to? The believers. Meaning when it comes to taking something from you, when it comes to receiving some benefit from you, they take it. Very greedily. How? How is it that they take very greedily? Think about it. When it comes to take war booty, what would they do? Alam nakum ma'akum? Were we not with you? We have a share as well. We did this, we did that. Give. So when it comes to taking from the believers, they take very greedily, selfishly. But when it comes to giving something, when it comes to sacrificing, what do? They're unwilling. They don't want to give anything. What does it show? That they had absolutely no affection for the believers. No mercy for the believers. Ashihatan alaykum. Imagine that a family member of yours is like that. That they keep demanding and they don't give anything. You know, there are many women who say that I work myself, I go make money myself, my husband also works, he doesn't give me a penny, and he expects that I should do the groceries myself and cook food at home and provide him. And if one day I don't have anything, then I get yelled at. What does it show? What does she feel? He doesn't care for me. He doesn't like me. He doesn't have any affection for me. Think about it. If somebody is like this towards you, how do you find them? What kind of feelings do you have for them? You don't care for them. So we see that the munafiqeen, their attitude towards the believers was of shuh. They had no affection for them. فَإِذَا جَاءَ الْخَوْفُ. And when the fear comes. What does it mean by fear? When the fear comes. That when there's announcement for battle. Because that would bring fear. Now imagine the Muslims that were in Medina. All of a sudden these people came to Medina telling the Muslims that the mushrikeen of Makkah and various tribes of Arabia, they're coming in order to attack you. This news, what would it bring? News of extreme fear, and at the same time, battle and sacrifice and hard work. So فَإِذَا جَاءَ الْخَوْفُ. When the announcement for battle is made, رَأَيْتَهُمْ. You see them. Who? The munafiqeen. يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَيْكَ. They are looking towards you. And who does you refer to? The Prophet ﷺ. They're looking towards you. تَدُورُ أَعْيُنُهُمْ. While their eyes, they're revolving. تَدُورُ. دَارَ يَدُورُ. دَال وَالْرَى. What does that literally mean? To revolve, to go around. So their eyes are revolving. They're moving in circles, going around. Meaning, they're not looking straight at you. They don't make eye contact with you. Who would do this? In any situation, you tell somebody, okay, this is something that we have to do. And they start looking away from you. They don't make eye contact with you. Like for example, sometimes I ask a question in class. And I'm looking towards you, and what do? You don't make eye contact with me. What does that show? You don't want to answer the question. You're trying to avoid. So the munafiqeen, what would they do at a time when the Prophet ﷺ would make the announcement for war? When it came time to sacrifice, they would not make eye contact with him. To avoid. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَالَّذِي. Like the one who يُغْشَى عَلَيْهِ مِنَ الْمَوْتِ. Like a person who is overcome by death. What does it mean by this يُغْشَى? يُغْشَى غَيْن شِين يَا غَشِيَ يَغْشَى, which is to cover. What does that mean? To cover. So يُغْشَى عَلَيْهِ الْمَوْتِ. When a person is covered by death, meaning he's covered by pangs of death. By the sakaratul maut. And when a person is in sakarat, when a person is at the verge of dying, can he keep his eyes still, focused? He cannot. Because of the extreme pain, and his body is sweating, he's suffering from a lot of pain, he's thirsty, he's in a lot of agony. What happens? He keeps looking here and there, keeps revolving his eyes. Similarly, these people, when the battle is announced, it's as though they have been told, you're going to die. They don't make eye contact. They avoid you so much. Like a person who is overcome by death. فَإِذَا ذَهَبَ الْخَوْفُ. But when the fear, it departs. When the panic subsides. When security is restored. And the circumstances have gone back to normal. What does it mean? The battle is over. When the battle is over, when the spoils have been secured, then what happens? What's the behavior of the hypocrites? Do they avoid you? They don't avoid you. They come towards you. سَلَقُوكُمْ بِأَلْسِنَةٍ حِدَادٍ. They lash you with sharp tongues. سَلَقُوكُمْ. Salaqu from the root letters, Sin, Lam, Qaf. Sin, Lam, Qaf. And salaqa al-bayd aw al-baql is to boil eggs or some vegetables in water. You may have heard bayd masluq. Has anyone heard? Bayd masluq, boiled egg. You can teach your children. Bayd masluq. So, salqa is what? To hurt someone through one's kalam. Because when something is boiling, then what happens? Sometimes the water drops, they come out. And when they hit you, when they touch your skin, it's like as if somebody has literally lashed you. Because they're extremely hot. So, salaqukum, they lash you, they smite you, the munafiqeen, bi alsinatin, with tongues, alsina plural of lisan. And lisan, as you know, it applies to tongue as well as words, language. And such tongues that are hidad, and such words that are extremely sharp. Hidad is a plural of hadid. And what does hadid mean? Iron. And hadid is also used for that which is sharp. فَبَصَرُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ. So your eyes today are extremely sharp. Your eyesight, your vision today is very sharp. Basically it's from had. And what is had? the edge of something. The limit of something, the edge of something. And the edge of a knife, for instance, how is it? It's extremely sharp. Has it ever touched you? Has it? What does it leave on your skin? A cut. Or at least a scrape. So the sharper the edge, the deeper the cut. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says over here, سَلَقُوكُمْ بِأَلْسِنَةٍ حِدَادٍ. When the battle is over, when you have gained spoils, then they come to you with extremely severe, rude, harsh words, and they're smiting you, lashing you. Why? So that they can get some benefit from you. In their greed for the riches, in their greed for the wealth, for the spoils of war, they would come to the Prophet ﷺ, to the Muslims, and they would insult them with their words, speak very harshly with them, in an extremely uncivilized fashion, in an extremely rude and conceited way. And what would they do? Make the Muslims feel bad, so that the Muslims would give them a part of the war booty. It's like, a bully. He doesn't have a share in that little kid's lunch. But what does he do? He comes and he threatens him, I'll beat you, I'll do this, I'll do that, until the little kid says, okay, take it and go away, please leave me. So similarly, this is what the munafiqeen would do. They would come to the Prophet ﷺ, Muslims, and they would lash them with extremely harsh tongues, extremely harsh words, and demand booty from them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَشِحَّةً عَلَى الْخَيْرِ, indisposed upon good. Meaning they're extremely selfish, extremely greedy when it comes to wealth. Al-khayr over here refers to wealth. Because وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. Al-khayr is also used for wealth. So they're extremely greedy for wealth. This is why they come to you like this. Allah says, أُولَٰئِكَ لَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا. Such people, they have not believed. فَأَحْبَطَ اللَّهُ أَعْمَالَهُم. So Allah has wasted their deeds. Why has He wasted them? Because they haven't truly believed. Think about it. Who is a true believer? Someone who uses abusive words? No. Someone who is selfish? What do we learn? Who is a believer? Who is a Muslim? Man salim al-muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi. Isn't it? And what's a sign of a believer? That he likes for his brother what he likes for himself. And what's a sign of the believer? That he respects the Prophet ﷺ. He respects him. He never prefers himself over the Prophet ﷺ. And what is his attitude towards the rest of the believers? رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُمْ. They're loving, affectionate towards one another. They're not rude. So such people, أُولَٰئِكَ لَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا. They haven't truly believed. Therefore, فَأَحْبَطَ اللَّهُ أَعْمَالَهُمْ. Allah has wasted their deeds. Because of their rudeness, because of this characteristic of theirs, all of their deeds have been wasted. وَكَانَ ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ يَسِيرًا. And that for Allah is very, very easy. What? Wasting the deeds of such people? Not awarding them any reward? This is something very simple for Allah. It's not difficult for Him. What do we see in this ayah? That the munafiq, at the time of difficulty, at the time when some sacrifice is demanded from him, at the time when he is required to put in some effort to do something, what is his behavior? He doesn't want to do it. He stays back. He stays away. He doesn't offer his services. He doesn't come forward. But rather, what does he do? He keeps avoiding. He keeps avoiding. Why? Because he knows that this work requires a lot of effort. And a hypocrite, what does he want? Just his own personal benefit and enjoyment. He doesn't care about the greater good. What is he concerned about? His own personal good only. He doesn't think that if I stay behind from this, everyone's going to get affected. What does he think? If I stay behind from this, I'll be safe. A hypocrite is who? Selfish. He's not concerned about the rest of the believers. He's only concerned about himself. Which is why when the time comes to do something, he begins to avoid making any eye contact even. He avoids the people. He avoids that place. He stays away. And if he happens to be in front of them, it's as though he's overcome by death. It's as though such bad news has been given to him that he's going to die. Work means death. You understand? Sacrifice means death. كَالَّذِي يُغْشَى عَلَيْهِ مِنَ الْمَوْتِ. So what do we see? A hypocrite is who? A lazy person. Someone who does not want to do anything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another thing that is mentioned over here about the hypocrites is what? That when the circumstances are normal, when the Muslims are victorious, what does the munafiq want? What does he want? A share in the khair. He wants booty as well. He wants to take the advantage as well. When it comes to doing the work, he doesn't do it. But when it comes to reaping the benefits, what does he want? He wants some for himself as well. When it comes to giving credit to people for their work, he wants it as well. What did we learn earlier? وَيُحِبُّونَ أَن يُحْمَدُوا بِمَا لَمْ يَفْعَلُوا. They love to be praised for what they don't even do. They don't do anything, and afterwards, what do they want? Praise, acknowledgement. They want that they should be given credit. They want that they should be given some kind of compensation. And how do they get it out of people? Through their harsh words. By being extremely abusive and offensive in their language, in their words. And we see that of the signs of hypocrisy is that a person lashes the believers with his tongue as though one would be chopping something with his knife. This is how abusive he is towards the believers. He insults them. You know, sometimes the words of other people, it's as though they've literally cut you. Literally they've cut you. A person who is a true believer, an honest believer, what does he have in his heart for other believers? Affection, love, mercy. He will never ever use such words that will hurt others. That will as though cut their hearts. No. He's careful, cautious. So it is of the signs of hypocrisy that a person lashes the rest of the believers with his tongue, with his harsh words. We see that the Sahaba, they differed amongst themselves. Typically what happens? At times of differences, this is when we become very rude towards one another. Isn't it? We insult one another. We don't care about the other person's integrity, their honor, nothing. We just go on saying whatever we want to, just to satisfy ourselves. We see that the Sahaba, even they had differences. But do we find them lashing one another with words? No. And if ever they said something that was inappropriate, what would they do? They would apologize. Like once Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu said something to Bilal radhiyallahu anhu, and he did not like it, so he went and complained to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what happened? He apologized. So the Sahaba, they would refrain from using harsh words because they were ruhama'u baynahum, and if ever by mistake they said something, what would they do? Apologize to one another. But we see that the munafiq, what does he do? He's extremely harsh, extremely abusive. Why? Because he just wants to get benefit for himself. He just wants benefit for himself. And he comes down on other people to get benefit out of them. And because of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that their deeds, they have been wasted. Which deeds? What did they do after all? Very little. Isn't it? وَلَا يَأْتُونَ الْبَأْسَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Whatever efforts they did put in the munafiqeen, all of them, they're wasted. وَكَانَ ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ يَسِيرًا. And that is something very, very easy for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we see that on the outward, the munafiq appears to be very confident, very bold, very courageous, that he thinks that strength is that you can say whatever you want. But actually, on the inside, how are they? Hollow, extremely weak, with no courage. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say with regards to that? That يَحْسَبُونَ الْأَحْزَابَ لَمْ يَذْهَبُوا. They think that the Ahzab have not yet withdrawn. Who? The munafiqeen. Why do they think like this? Because of their fear of the Ahzab. They're so afraid of the Ahzab that even though the Ahzab have left, all of the groups have left, what do they think? They haven't yet left. On the outward, they appear to be so strong that they're insulting the believers, insulting the Prophet ﷺ. But on the inside, hollow, extremely weak, no confidence, no courage.